When I first started meditating, I got instructions from, I think it was The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama, but it was a Dalai Lama book. And it talked about working up to 20 minutes, or if you can follow your breath for 100 breaths, that's an accomplishment. And I was really getting into it, and I thought, oh, I'm doing all right. And then I went to the local monastery, a pottery, and they sat for an hour in silence. And the way that Thai forest monasteries start meditation is usually they just sit down and start sitting, and then they keep sitting. I was kept on waiting for it to start until I realised it had already started. And after 45 minutes, I was convinced that I was doing permanent damage to my knees, and I struggled like everyone else. So if it's your first time meditating today, it's not a beginner's sport. You haven't done it wrong. You've done fine. Like, it's all good. So you can't be any. You were certainly a lot less of a distraction than I was, bouncing up and down on a cushion that I thought was cruelly inflated. It was not adequate, and I had very strong views and opinions on the lack of padding in that cushion. But I brought my own one the next week, and I realised that the suffering was in my head, because my cushion was a lot better and I still didn't like it. So yeah, well done for trying something new and turning up. But yeah, well done. For me, I've had lots of little sort of breakthroughs and changes of thought, but one that I think has helped me recently, in a lot of ways, it's like a lens I put over to see things, and this is the lens of addiction, and a lot of, and all faiths talk about attachment and addiction in various quality, in various ways. But when I started to use what's generally considered pejorative words, like mean words about something, like rather than using the word addiction or attachment, which is quite ironically quite detached from our experience, when I started thinking of it as a drug, and that word drug, I don't like that word. You can talk about this, you can talk about attraction and aversion and stuff, but when you say I'm a drug addict, that's a lot. It doesn't sit right with you, and it causes that agitation. And when you realise that everything is a drug, not just drugs, and we're our addiction is the same way, and it is there are varying degrees of vulgarity, and there's a vulgar nature to quite profound addictions with people in say injecting heroin or something like that. That's quite a crass, vulgar addiction. But once we realise that we're doing the same thing, but maybe on a slightly more subtle level, like we might be addicted to refined sugar, we might be addicted to television, our phone, and then we realise it's the same thing. This itch that we need to scratch, this itch of being uncomfortable in our own skin, and then when we realise that it's varying degrees, we can not only let ourselves off the hook for our addictions, but maybe not more importantly, but equally importantly, other people. So just because our addictions are different from other people's doesn't mean ours are better or worse than other people's, but it allows us to understand other people, and I've had these conversations with people, and I said I've never being addicted to the same substance or thing as you, but I'm still bound by addictions, and I'm open. I say mine aren't as big as that, and it's not, and I don't understand to know the extent of what you're going through, but I understand a little bit about what it's like for you, because I suffer too with addictions, and that was a big breakthrough, not for me and for people I talk to, because you're not creating barriers. There's no us and them. It's acknowledging there's a difference, and just acknowledging that difference for people with extreme addictions is nice, just because it's that graduation of addiction that they appreciate, rather than this right and wrong, us versus them, and and that sense of other. So it can draw us all together, realising that we're all cut from the same cloth. And once we can accept that we are drug addicts, and our drug might be legal, our drug might be anything, but our drug might even be health. We might be addicted to the idea of being healthy, and missing the gym for a week or a month might send us in a mental tailspin, which is way more detrimental than the physical effects of not going to the gym for a few days. So even positive things can be an addiction, and it's not to beat ourselves up about everything that we do. It's not to beat ourselves up every time we have a Malteser, but it's to acknowledge that we are human. We do have attachments, and rather than looking to get rid of everything and have an extreme life, we're looking to just do it a little bit less, or understand why we're doing it. And one of these things I was thinking about at the weekend, I had a lovely walk with some people from the group, and then I sat down and listened to, no, it was last night, I can't remember what I was listening to, but it was probably something like What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. That's some nice soul music. And I realised, and I was texting someone because they'd heard something quite literally horrific in court, and I was saying, oh, did you want to come round for a cup of tea? And I started thinking, like, how much of it is of that niceness that I'm giving to this person is me genuinely being nice, and how much of it is me feeding my own addiction to want to appear nice. Am I being nice for them? And I managed to get into a place that was without judgment, without beating myself up for and worrying if I was being nice for the wrong reasons. That wasn't what I was doing. What I was doing was wondering to what extent I was doing things. Obviously, being nice is being nice, and the Dalai Lama said, if you're going to be selfish, be selfishly kind. You're going to get a kick out of being nice to people. You're going to get an ego boost out of being nice to people. But that's all right. Don't worry. Don't beat yourself up over it. And I did think that our relationships with other people can be an addiction or an attachment, and we'd all be better off if we were comfortable being alone with ourselves, because then when we do spend time with people, we're doing it through choice, not out of compulsion. We choose to be with people, and that choosing to be with someone is a felt experience by the other person. They feel that you want to be with them, rather than you need to be with them because it's better than sitting by yourself, which isn't as great as someone saying, I like hanging out with you for funsies, rather than, well, it's better than I don't know, watching Bargain Hunt on TV by myself, or whatever you would have been doing in other ways. But if you're comfortable just being by yourself, I've found the more I'm comfortable being around with myself, the more I appreciate being around other people, because I'm doing it through choice. And it was just that exploration of addiction that's helped me do that. Now, that's not to say that that's the way that you've solved that problem, but that's a lens that I've used that's helped me on occasions by thinking things, and I just wanted to offer that as my way of doing it, as something that you may or may not want to experiment with, as a fun thought experiment. And if at any point that you feel like you're starting to beat yourself up or worry about it, then that may not be the right thing for you at that time, because this isn't about beating yourselves up. It's about having fun thought experiments. And maybe next week I'll think of another fun thought experiment that we can do. But yeah, terms and conditions apply. It can go down a wrong path, but if you're going down the wrong path with these thought experiments, just, I don't know, make a cup of tea and listen to Marvin Gaye or something. So yeah, that's my thoughts for the day. Thank you, Anna Modena.